Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com, BidamountLive.com, and P.L. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is September 24th, 2021, and this is our weekly video. I'm in New Hampshire this week on this. If the background looks a little different, that's why. It's raining up here like crazy. Anyway, it's nice to be away. And before we get started, I wanted to let everybody know we were watching the sales down in New York the last couple of days online. And they had some good results. They had some disappointments. It was, a typical auction scene. And when I get back to Boston next week, we get home, I'll do we'll go through and do a whole autopsy on what went well, what didn't go well, make our thoughts on why. A couple of things I wanted to go through just quickly from New York from today, in case anybody's interested. A few things did quite well. One of them was this vase that we talked about, the Yale University Famille Rose vase. This was that great big one that was over 54 inches tall. Thought it was just wonderful. It's being deaccessioned, so they can, I guess Yale needs a little money, so they're going to sell a few things. And they got rid of this wonderful vase. It was estimated, I think, very reasonably, as I said last week, 30 to 50,000. Ended up selling for $75,000. It went over its estimate, but not a surprise. Not a surprise at all. Nice looking object. And then this was a real shocker. One of the big things that went off, it was a chrysanthemum bowl, yellow enameled, beautiful thing. It's I think the Bauer collection in Switzerland has one similar to it, and I think they have a white one as well. Anyway, it was estimated it's Yongzheng marking period, and as they said, probably of the period, because they weren't certain. They tend to hedge their bets a little bit these days on some monochromes because they're not always quite sure. But at any rate, enough people looked at it and decided it was fine. And with a $20,000 to $30,000 estimate, it went 10 times its high estimate, selling for $325,000. Pretty good price. This was a fairly moderate sized bowl, 7¼ inches wide. Beautiful colors, beautiful enamels on it, or beautiful enamel color. It looked to be in very fine condition. The edges, the rim all looked good. The color was nice and even, and it brought a big price. But it's also a rare color. Rare colors bring high prices. And then part of that George Walter Vincent Smith collection of the Springfield Museum here in Massachusetts, they had a lot of Cloisonne in the sale, and some of it did very, very well. Some of it died. But some of the best pieces did really well, like this sensor on stand. It was estimated at 100 to 150,000, ended up selling for 600,000. They had several lots that did this, and their ceramics were particularly well received, and we're going to go through those because the prices were surprising. We'll do that next week. Also from that collection was this, a really rare form, Cloisonne teapot, probably early 19th century, but a sort of a compressed form, very, very attractively done with a band of aquatic plants running around the outside with pairings of mandarin ducks. Beautifully done, nice, just tiny bits of wear to the gilding on the bronze around here, but overall, really great looking pot. And it was estimated at $20,000 to $30,000 and ended up selling for $150,000. And I think that surprised a lot of people. But I suspect that some folks did some digging and found that there was a comparable, probably in one of the major Chinese, at the Palace Museum or something, and they did their homework and found out that maybe it's much rarer than anybody thought. So you end up getting these, this wild price. This is not a form I've seen. I've seen it in porcelain, not seen it in Cloisonne like this. So that may explain the price. All right, and then on to this. This was the sort of that mystery piece that we talked a good bit about 2 weeks ago when we did the preview, because it's sort of a strange form, blue and white, Wan Li mark, but they didn't date it. Christie's didn't date this. They didn't say anything other than it had a Wan Li mark on it. And back when we did the video, I thought that it was probably Wan Li or early Qing at the latest, based on the decoration and so forth. And it's got that white against blue decoration, beautifully done, in a looks like a really, really rare form. It just struck me as being something very, very special. And with these, they can be tricky because you don't know what they're going to bring because there aren't a lot of comps to go by. Well, apparently some people did their homework on it, and they may have found a comp somewhere or part of a collection or in a painting or something. And it was estimated at $10,000 to $15,000 and ended up selling for $337,500. It's a heck of a price. But it's probably, I think it was decided that this was an extreme rarity. And for a piece of Wanli porcelain, that's a heavy, heavy price. But if I haven't heard from anybody. I asked when I did the original videos if anybody has seen another one of these. Let me know about it. I'd love to see it, learn more. And so far, I've not heard a thing. But if I do hear something, I'll tell you what it was. All right, and then over to that nifty little compressed copper red glazed bottle vase. I thought this was terrific and very moderately estimated, $5,000 to $7,000, and apparently a lot of other people did too. And it ended up selling for $32,500. It wasn't marked, but the color was beautiful. And the form was nice, and that was enough to shove it way out of its estimate, going up almost, over 5 times it, or roughly close to 5 times its high estimate. And then you had the Zitan table, and not surprisingly, it did really well. It brought $687,000, about $180,000 over its high estimate of $300,000 to $500,000, but beautiful, beautiful table, top quality, and huge. And huge Zitan tables do not turn up very often. Small Zitan objects do awfully well. In the same sale, there was a small Zitan plaque that we'll talk about that had a modest estimate and brought into 6 figures. I think it was estimated at around 40 or 50,000. It went, I think, triple that at the end of the day. But we'll go through it next week. We'll cover them all next week. And then the robe. The robe did very, very well. It didn't do as well as I thought it might have, though. I thought this would bring another 100 or 200,000 or so. I just thought it was so wonderful. And somebody got, I think, a very good buy. It was estimated at 100 to 150,000. Ended up selling for 275,000, almost doubling its high estimate. Not bad, but I thought it might even do better because these Christie robes don't turn up very often, but still, a heck of a good price and a beautiful, beautiful textile for somebody. Just absolutely great, wonderful. I still think the same of it. I just think that somebody got a great buy, that kind of thing. But next week we're going to go through the sales and talk a bit more about them. And there's a lot to talk about. Also, we're going to talk about this, the Doyle sale. If you missed it. This was a thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago as well, was this enamel decorated, probably from the Tang Ying workshops, vase that had been cut down in height. It has this metal ring. This vase probably extended up another 3 or so inches in height, and it was broken at some point. You can see all the cracks on the body here and here, all through here. Snapped it off, and they sort of cleaned it up and put this ring on there. And it came from a collection, I think, down in Georgia. I read somewhere. It was the heiress to a department store owned this, and they had estimated it at 100,000 to 300,000, and it started out with a regular opening bid of around 50,000, went to 60, 70, 80. When it got to 100, it sort of quieted for a second, and then somebody came in at $1 million right on top of that $100,000 bid. They jumped the bid 900%, $900,000 jump in bid. You don't see that very often. And when that happens, it's going to go a good bit more. Those jump bids rarely shake off the competition. Usually when somebody jumps a bid that big, it encourages people who are on the fence to just go for it. And it did, and it doubled that amount and ended up selling for $2 million. All right, but it was a heck of a fine thing, and it was, I believe it was $2 million plus the buyer's premium. So it sold for $2 million plus, so ended up around $2.45 million. Heck of a strong price, but rare. And apparently the market has become a little more accepting of things that have blemishes. But as I mentioned before, if it was a perfect vase, it would be worth at least 8 or 10 million, maybe 15 million, maybe more. Because there are no comps to go by. What do you compare this to? You won't find one that's sold in the last few years of this quality or this type You'd have to go back probably 40 years. So figuring out what these are worth is very tricky. All right, and the rest of the Doyle sale overall did very, very well. Richard did a great job down there. We had a lot of inquiries from on the preview assistant program on Bidamount, people wanting to know what we thought about things, and a number of the lots that we saw that we liked, we said, go for it, and I think a few people did, from what I can see. And the prices were good, but not crazy. Overall, it was a good auction. It was a good auction for everybody in every price range. Every wallet can shop at Doyle's. That's the great thing about it. I had a number of inquiries about this pomegranate ewer. I thought it was great, but very unusual, and might go at a reasonable price, which I think it did, because what are you going to compare it to? And oddballs, things that you have trouble comparing to, can either bring very modest amounts of money because people don't have the courage to spend a lot because they don't know what others have brought, or they can go through the roof and a bunch of people start speculating. But in this case, I think it went reasonably. I thought it was a nice thing. And we're going to go through the sale. They had some good things. They had a lovely candy here that did very well, and some other things. But we'll get into it. As for what sold over on eBay last week, some things did quite well. And the strength in the Asia Week sale so far, even with all the turmoil and stuff going on right now with China and their economy and the Grande, the real estate company, in trouble, which I think has been bailed out by the government, and other issues, of course, geopolitical stuff. You wonder how it's going to shake up the Asian art market. And right now, it doesn't seem to be having a heck of a big impact. China's GDP is declining, but that was sort of expected, I think. But the buyers over there, the collectors in China, seem pretty willing still to get their money into hard assets like artwork. And so for now, the prices seem quite good. We've been through these periods before where the Chinese economies fluctuated, and it seems not to have any impact at all on Chinese art. Remember back in 2009 and 10, the prices that they were getting at auction, sky high, even though the world was in a recession. All right, and you had things like this sold the other day. It was very nice, sort of the 100 Boys pattern, but at the Dragon Festival. These wonderful Dragon Festival bowls. This wasn't very big. It's fairly small, about 6 inches in height, but nicely decorated, beautifully enameled little cup. I like this a lot. They called it a planter. I don't know if I technically call it. It's a planter shape, that's for sure. But a small bowl. At any rate, it looked great with a little plant coming out of it, though, wouldn't it? Yeah, I guess it would. At any rate, a lot of people liked this a lot, and it ended up getting 26 bids and selling for $1,705. Not bad. And then on to here, rank badges are still strong, still very, very, very strong. This was a nice one. I think this was a 5th rank badge, 5th or 6th rank. I forgot. I never looked these up before I do them. But anyway, with the red-headed heron or egret, it's beautifully done. The colors were vibrant and strong. It is an early to mid-19th century example from what I can see, but very, very nicely embroidered, beautifully embroidered. Doesn't appear to have any sun fading at all. The reds are still nice and red. The blues don't really fade much, but the reds and the yellows and this skin color, the sort of peach tone here, is still strong. Okay, and that means that the fabric's been well cared for, and ended up selling for $3,872, which is quite a strong price, but I think a very nice textile, and I think it was in beautiful condition, like a painting. All right, and then the other one that sold was this one. This was another one with they called this a sun rank badge with the Fu lion on it, and very finely done as well. Good condition. Same dealer. This is the same seller. He must have gotten into a load of rank badges. Nice looking example, and in the end, it also did very well. $1,575. All right, but very pretty, nice color, and nicely mounted. I like the black frame around it. All right, and then over on the Chinese porcelain side, these were nice. It was a male and female pheasant decorated on the side of a lake. Beautiful done. It's sort of a stock pattern that they used, and they did it in varying styles. Sometimes they made the flowers bigger and the birds smaller, or the birds bigger and the flowers smaller. Sometimes they did them all fairly even like this. And it's within those rather complicated borders that they did in the late Qianlong period. Nicely done. Not a huge pair of plates. They're only about 12 inches in diameter, but they're obviously from the same set and in beautiful condition, and that goes a long way. And they ended up selling for $632 rather, from a dealer over in Dorset. This was from Arthur Potts. Arthur gets good things. If you ever see his name on, you can always, he knows what he's doing. He describes things accurately, and he's always got nice quality things. All right, and then on to this. This is the Chinese export blue and white with famille rose decorated dish. This is Decor Arts Limited, or LLC. And I don't know much about them. They're in Cheshire, Connecticut. We've had their things before. They seem to get good things. The nice quality, especially Chinese export porcelain like this. This is a beautiful plate, and it still has its gilding on the rim going here. And then you have this star, a leaf pattern in the center, which you see on other plates and porcelains from the 18th century. It's often used as a framing device. Nicely filled in, very, very attractive, and did pretty well. It brought $261. A rather nice buy. I think it was about a 9-inch plate from what I remember, about 9 inches in diameter. And then on to this. This was a very good buy. This was being offered, I think this was the Shangri-La guys, right? Ceramics and collectibles. This is a plate that bears the mark on the back of Augustus the Strong. And then Augustus the Strong was a major influence in the collecting craze of especially Kangxi porcelains. He was a Polish king. There's a lot written about him. He traded a brigade of soldiers for some porcelains and all this kind of crazy stuff. But his pieces were numbered in a particular way, and let me see here. They actually here they provided a really good explanation of it, and explained the Johanneum mark on the bottom, which is the building where all these pieces were moved to in the latter part of the 19th century. So they ended up calling it the Johanneum mark. It's an inventory mark, and they would incise this number into the back of the porcelains right here, and you can see it. And they would sometimes cut it in like with a wheel, and they'd cut in number 199. Other times they would ink it in after they cut it, so that it would be it would soak into the paste a bit. At any rate, this was a pretty great thing. If you skipped the description, you missed out on the provenance. It's one of those plates people don't necessarily want, aren't crazy about silver-mounted Kangxi porcelain. And I understand that a little bit, but if it's coming from the collection of Augustus the Strong and part of his inventory, it's the silver's sort of been Europeanized onto the porcelain, and it makes it a pretty interesting thing. And somebody picked this up, I think, fairly reasonably for what did they pay? $610 for a Kangxi dish that had been in the collection of Augustus the Strong. That's a good buy. That's a smart buy. All right, and then over here, Mr. Neal over in the UK had a bunch of nice ivory, a mother of pearl counters up. And I've got to remember when he sent me his booklets on his counters, and I've got to show them to everybody and tell you more about them. You can order them from him. He's the only person I know that's written something about these with any sort of detail. He wrote 2 booklets. They're fairly small handbooks. They're not expensive, like $20 or something, and he'll be happy to send you both. And it goes through how do you date them, what their history is, why they were made, when they were made, how hard they were to make. These were all hand carved, and at the time they were considered to be great luxuries, real big luxuries to have these things made, and you could have them made with your monogram on them and things. And these are really quite nice, and I think they're undervalued on the market crazily. The fact that people don't collect these as artwork. They're exports, so the Chinese aren't that fond of them, but to a Western collector, this is a really interesting area of study. $48 this went for one of these nice counters. They can go for a lot less. They can go for a lot more. The quality and the history of each piece and its date has a great deal to do with its value, but that was a nice one. And then the Cloisonne cups. I thought these were lovely. This pair of wine cups, they're just simple, elegant, undisturbed looking surface on them, in nice condition. They provided some good photographs of the bottom, showing you this nice heavy sort of bronze body that they were on. Beautifully done. And I liked how they angled the lappets, the roux head lappet sort of devices around the base. They sort of fanned them out. Very attractive. And in the end, I think a number of people liked it quite a bit. And they ended up selling for $1,143. And this was a seller out in Alhambra, California, had this. LA Antique Estate. This is his second sale. He's brand new to eBay, but we'll keep an eye on him. If we get some more stuff like this, we'll be happy to put it up. Nice looking pair of cups. And the bronze, this closed, we talked about this a little bit because I like the fact it was a Prickett stick. The figure is very attractive, and in the end it did pretty well. It ended up selling for $840. Just 5 bids though. It's sort of funny. Just a few people came along and hit it, and it ended up getting there, but usually you see more bids than that. This was from a seller in Sicklerville, New Jersey. I've never been to Sicklerville. Sicklerville. We have relatives down that area, or in New Jersey. All right. Anyway, $840. Not bad at all. And this Chinese silver export cup, saucer and spoon with a dragon on it. Like I think this is probably like a little teacup with a repoussé teacup. And as I recalled, we looked at this last week, and it didn't have a maker's mark on it. It was dated. What is that? That's May 6th, 1904. There is a maker's mark on it. There it is. Somebody got to look that up. All right, it's in the silver book over in the book section, I'm sure. And here's some more markings that were on it. Oh, they're on the spoon. Oh, okay. All right. There you go. Anyway, nice repoussé cup, probably a Hong Kong or Shanghai silversmith. Ended up selling for $315. Very reasonable. Chinese silver is a good thing to get into. I've always loved Chinese silver. And something else that sold last week was rather nice, was this marked Cloisonne square or Lausanne-shaped Meiji Satsuma piece. Nice looking thing. Ended up selling for $400. It closes tomorrow. This isn't closed yet. Hold on. This closes tomorrow. It's up to €401. I thought this already finished. It's estimated at $900 to $1,200, and it's under its estimate, but it doesn't have a reserve on it. So if you like Satsuma and you want to take a shot at it, go over and take a shot at it, because lately on the newsletter page that you all get, if you don't get it, come over and subscribe to it. It's free, and we'll send you out the notice each week when it updates over on Bidamount.com. Let's see here. It's we've been lately. What we've been doing is trying to avoid the reserve items. And I know Catawilki doesn't probably like that, but we've been making a real effort to filter through and post the only things on the newsletter page that are unreserved from Catawilki, because I think some of the sellers over at Catawilki are hurting their own site by having high reserves. If you want fixed price, put a fixed price on it and sell it. All right, and that's perfectly reasonable. But don't put things up for auction and then put what you'd accept as a price, hoping that you'll get more. I mean, it's childish. At any rate, and then I shouldn't say that, but I did. And then the fan. This was a wonderful fan, tortoise shell with Chinese paper landscape scene on it. Very nicely done. Very nicely done, and rather rare and unusual. And I think this was the fellow that showed it, but he didn't show it with the box. All right, it had its original box. That was great. Always shoot. If you're selling a fan and you have the original box for it, make sure that's your primary photo on eBay. Include the box, because some people only buy the fans if they have the box. And you want them to know right away that you've got the box for it. Anyway, sold for $1,115, which I think was reasonable. I don't think that was a high price, not for tortoiseshell. All right. And there was, and I don't have a picture of it here, but if some of you remember 2 weeks ago we talked about, there was a round, speaking of tortoiseshell, that round tortoiseshell box that was on the global member pages that was so nice, and they typically sell, as we said, in the $1,200 to $1,500, $1,300 to $1,600 range in there. It ended up selling. It brought $1,300 and something dollars and change. All right, so there you are. And also next week when I get back, I'm going to take a look, and we're going to talk about some of the auction results that happened this week. There's a lot of things sold this week around the world, not just in New York, but a lot of auctions closed. Alrighty, and now what's coming up here? These are some of the things that are on there that are about to close in the next day or two. This was something that this is also from the Ceramics and Collectibles. This very nice cup, Kangxi period cup with that sort of grid decoration that they were so fond of, and I think it's very attractive. I've had vases with this on it, double gourds and so forth. A very interesting pattern. This thing is up to just $90. I expect it to jump another 300 or so by the time it closes, 300 or 400 probably, but or 200 to 300 at least. It's very attractive. And then on to this chocolate pot with the spout. They photographed it in a kind of weird, in a way that the spout is there, but it's a side handle. You know, the handle's on one side, and this is at a 45. The spout is at a 45-degree angle to the pot, and for some reason they shot it so you can't see that the spout's there. It's there. All right, and it closes in a couple of days. On Sunday, it's up to $288, but it's a fairly rare type, probably Yongzheng period, and should do pretty well, I suspect. All right, and then this, our friend over Hans 3962, our friend Feek has a few things up this week, including this nice-looking pair of Kangxi Amari decorated plates, but it's a pair, nicely done. Good gilding on them. They have a nice looking glossy finish on them. They look fine, cute size, and they've only got a. Let's see here. They've only got a couple of days to go. They've only had 2 bids. They're only up to $9, and I don't know why. That's a very reasonable price. They should bring 100, 100 and a quarter each. So if you want to take a shot at them, let me see. One plate is near perfect, and the other has a very small 2 millimeter flea bite on the rim. Apparently, 2 millimeters is pretty small. But he's very meticulous about any damage or anything that's not perfect. But if you like Kangxi porcelain, you want to jump or early. He says Qinlong. I think they're probably Kangxi. But at any rate, 18th century. Jump on those. That's a bargain. Alrighty, and what else is coming up is this bronze. They have it listed as Qing 18th century. It's either 18th century or early 19th century. It could just as well be Qing period. But nice looking patina on it, nice footed thing with lion mask going around the outside. It's well worked. My feeling is that this is early 19th century, but nice looking piece of bronze, really is. It's up to just $393. Ought to jump over that. It is, as I recall, it was a decent size, a respectable size. What was it? Yeah, it was 5 inches wide and 3.5 inches tall, 3.25 inches tall. So it was a nice size. It wasn't tiny like a little cup. It was a little bigger than that. Nice looking though, nice quality, up to $389 and $93, and it should go another couple of hundred. And this, it turned up, it was one of these bronze vases. This is a 19th century example, I think. I don't think this is a really, really old one. I think it's either late 18th or early 19th century. Bambooed, decorated bronze with an Islamic cartouche on it. For the Middle Eastern market. I think this is probably a 19th century one, and it's up to $1,305, and but it does have some Arabic script on it, and that sends some people right over the edge. They love that, and we'll see where that goes. It'll probably get up to close to 2,000 or so. And also, Decor Arts LLC, the people we mentioned at the beginning, I mentioned before, they have a bunch of Chinese export stuff up there now, closing on Monday, including this very attractive teapot that looks so it's been clobbered, but beautiful quality. And there's a bunch of other Chinese export, and they're all going to be in the newsletter. We went through and flagged them all. We're going to toss them in because they're nice quality objects. And then this is probably Tongxi period, but pretty rare little thing. If you like Tongxi porcelain, maybe you want to come look at this. It's a little desk set, with a pen tray and an inkwell here, with a lady in the bottom holding a fan. But this is a pretty good one. And usually when you see these, they're all banged up. They've been cracked and chipped to pieces. The yellow areas on here look like tape marks. If they are tape marks, shame on the seller for not cleaning them before you put them up, because it could confuse people. Look like bad restoration. I would get a hold of them to verify that those are old yellow tape marks, because they probably are. It looks to me like what somebody did was they had this, and they're afraid this cover here would fall out, so they taped it from four corners onto the tray so it would stay in place and not get broken, which is good. But if you're going to sell it, clean the tape marks off. Anyway, this is a nice little tray set, and right now the price is pretty reasonable. It's only up to $217. Ought to double that pretty handily by the end, maybe hit 500. But I like it. I love those. They're 1870s, but nice quality. And fairly rare, because desk sets usually got chipped and busted to pieces because they were used. They were in places where they could be bumped, and they didn't always survive. That's the way it is. All right. And the other thing I wanted to mention was this bowl. This is Monui. Yeah, Gallery Monui over in Switzerland has a sale closing tomorrow. And they have this, and I am amazed this doesn't have a bid on it yet. It's a wonderful Sung Dynasty crackled cup, but lovely proportions. I love how the glaze is draped here at the bottom. Superbly potted. The potting on this is really, really good. Nice, genuine old thing. It's an opening bid of $324. They have a bunch of early stuff in here. It came from one collection, but this I thought was particularly nice. And it's got an opening bid of $324. It ought to bring double or triple that. It's a good-looking little piece of pottery. Very good looking. And something that sold this week I wanted to mention. This was down at the Eldredge sale. And this goes back to the old thing, leave a bid. Always leave a bid. Somebody bought the whole set of 12 of these for $900. All right. That means they picked them up for about $80 a piece. This was a great buy for a bird set of Chinese export on pith, all right? And they look to be, in pretty nice condition overall. These are not top quality pith paintings, but they're really colorful and decorative, and there are nice blue borders on them. And I think $80 or $90 a piece was very reasonable for these, really reasonable. They were estimated $800 to $1,200, but I think that was a very, very good buy for somebody. Pith paintings and Chinese export paintings right now are quite reasonable. They won't stay that way forever, because all these prices cycle, and they go through periods where they're moderately priced, like the Chinese watercolors, export gouaches and things like that right now, I think are very reasonable. For what they are incredibly reasonable. And eventually they'll back up again. All right, and the other thing that was rather nice was this little Ming wine pot with a metal silver. It looks like a silver mount on it, so forth. But this reticulated honeycomb body going around it. These are quite nice. They are Ming, and somebody picked this up, I think, very, very reasonably at Eldredge. It's $1,100. I mean, provided it's not been all restored to death, but it looked to be in quite good shape, and I thought this might bring $1,800 to $2,500 because these double-walled little wine pots are pretty rare, and you see them in bowls as well, and those are rare, and they always do well. They always do well because they were hard to make. And the last thing I want to talk about was that they had a nice pair of ivory card cases down at Eldredge. Well, you're not supposed to sell ivory, but that's what they are. And but the one on the left was a big one. The one on the right, I think, is a more classic size, but the one on the left was a little bit bigger. The one on the left was 4 1/4 by 3 1/2, and the other one was 3 1/2 by 2. So it was a nice looking case, nice looking couple of cases. Somebody picked them both up for $650. Very reasonable. Now the one on the right had a hole in it, granted. It had a little hole or break right there, but the rest of it looked okay. So that's worth a little bit, a couple of hundred, 150, 200. But the big one certainly was worth what both of them brought together, $600 or $700 for that. That was a nice ivory case. But dealers are a little afraid to buy them because of the ivory issue, but the artwork is just great on them. They make a wonderful, wonderful part of a collection. All right, and that's about it for the week. I'm up here and relaxing a little bit. We're hoping the rain will stop eventually. I'm really hopeful. And the dogs have been out running around and getting some things done, and having a good time. having a good time. It's good to get away at this time of the year, be up in New Hampshire. And I hope everybody has a great week and a great weekend. And next week, when I get back, we're going to put together some sort of a look at the bottom sales, how they did. They did quite well. They had some disappointments. The Youngman vase was a huge disappointment, I think, for them. They thought that would sell. I thought it would sell. It didn't sell. Don't know why. Maybe because it's the only one, and that can work against it sometimes. But we'll talk about it all. All righty. Have a great weekend, and subscribe here on YouTube to us if you haven't already, and visit us at Bidamount.com. And Bidamount Live has been busy. We've had a bunch of sales go through there in the last weekend. It's sort of been picking up very nicely. And if you're selling on there, keep adding stuff. And if you haven't used the site yet, keep checking it, because stuff comes and goes. There were a number of people that put a bunch of things up last week, and I don't think the stuff was up there for 2 days before it sold. One particular seller. So that's interesting. All right. Anyway, I'm glad to see it. I'm very, very pleased that people are using it. Okay. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. And lot number 977 is the magnificent Zitan corner leg table. And I can start this one at $190, $220,000. At $220,000. At $220,000 for the table now at $220. $550 is the bid. You're sure? Thank you so much, Diana. Thanks for your bids. Selling to you, Andrew, for $550,000. You're out, definitely out. Thanks so much. Fair warning online. It's yours, Andrew, at $550. Sold.